All right, we are recording. I am very excited for demos. So would anyone like to volunteer to go first? Show off what y'all did this week.
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right, you want to share your screen and walk us through your demo?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Share screen. Desktop. Um, yeah. Okay. So we had issue 2. As a user, I want to read all of my shopping lists and the items in them. And the specific tasks that we were assigned was in Home JSX, the single list component is used to render the name of each shopping list a user is subscribed to, and in list.jsx, the list item component is used to render the name of each item. So we didn't have a ton to do exactly. In the home.jsx component, we imported the single list component and then used the .map function so that we could iterate over the data array and render each list that the user is going to have in their like database, all the lists that the user has. Initially, when trying to get this to work, we ran into some errors. But I found out that it was because I was not logged in. And so if you're not signed in, you're not going to pass the auth checks that are done, where that's necessary to pass in all the appropriate data into the home and list element. But it got figured out. I figured out that I needed to be signed in. So in the single list component, we're passing in the props from data and we're pulling the name and the path. And then we gave it a key because in React, all of the list elements in an unordered list need to have a unique key. So we just used the path, assuming that all those would be unique. And that was all for the home view. And then in the list view, we did basically the same thing. The data that is the array that's passed in, we mapped over it, rendering all of the list items after importing the list item component. And then here we give all of those a unique key as well. And then if we go and start it, we can see that on the home page, this is the testing list that Tim imported last week. And then if we go to the list page, we can see the 2 items that are in the list. Anybody have any questions? No, okay.
No questions, but good job handling that tricky situation. This is new to us all, so it wasn't something we really anticipated having that issue with the login. So good job working through that. Great teamwork.
Yeah, if I sign out right here and then refresh, nothing is there. So that was the problem. I was seeing this, even though our code looked like this and it looked correct. So Irina recommended actually during that issue, she said, let's make an array and let's iterate over like the array that we made in the component. And that was really helpful to figure out that like our logic was correct. And so we were like, let's just move forward. And then, Irina did the second part and it was working on her page. And so that was extra confirmation that like everything was correct. And so all of these were just tiny little steps for me to figure out, oh, I need to be signed in. So yeah.
That's great troubleshooting. Nice work. Thank you for sharing that with us. Who would like to share from group 2?
I'll share.
Great, thank you.
All right, can you guys see that? Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. We had issue 3. So as a user, we want to be able to navigate to all the pages in the app by clicking the links in the nav bar. So our task was simply to get the links, all the links in the nav bar to function to be able to navigate between routes. So yeah, we have these before and after screenshots. So before we would click the nav links, we wouldn't be able to navigate, so links weren't working. So this is the code as it was before, highlighted in red. So we had these anchor tags, which work fine if you want to navigate to an external page, but if you use it within a React app, what happens is you click on the link and it'll reload the page, which for a single page app, that's not what we want. So thankfully we have React Router for that. So what we did was import this navlink component from React Router DOM, and we simply replaced all these anchor tags with the navlink component. And the navlink has this prop called to. You just insert the path and it'll tell the navlink component where to navigate to. So as a result, we're able to navigate between the routes. So yeah, we have these after screenshots.
Awesome. Good
Yeah.
job, guys.
Basically it.
Nice work. And I appreciate you walking us through why anchor tags will work, but you don't want to use them in, or you might not want to use them in this situation. So thank you, everyone. Those are really exciting demos. Congrats on completing week 1's issues.
Yes. How did it feel? Did y'all enjoy your first set of issues there?
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Good. Well, the other part of kind of like this week's tasks was to do those asynchronous modules, and we had quite a few of them. I'm curious if you guys were able to complete or look at some of those modules, or if you're still pending. It's okay if you are, they're kind of like, if you need them, take them, use them. And if you feel, oh, I've got that, well, that's okay too. Did all of you have a chance to look at them, or did you feel like you really didn't need to?
Yeah, I went through them all. I think I've done a little bit on like a Git course, so it was like a bit of a refresher, but it's nice to have it there. It's a neat little document. There was one thing that I kind of learned was when you're doing the like approving PRs, like if it's a small minor fix, to just say looks good, like just change this, and then they can approve it, because devs are working in different time zones, and I was like, oh, I never really thought of that. So it was something I learned new from those modules. Yeah.
I think there's different like conventional terms too, different labels, like this is a nitpick or something like that. And kind of like focusing on, or we don't need to focus on like the minor details, like, oh, this is misspelled or something like that, but focusing on that bigger picture and making recommendations. I think Tim made a recommendation in one of this week when we were looking at the issues, or maybe it was Belinda made a small recommendation on, oh, hey, this is another way that we can achieve this, but the code is fine as is. You can run it, because we all have our own way of, writing things. And unless it happens to be a big blocker, it's good to just still give it that approval. That was the Git one. And we did several ones. We had Git, pair programming, And here, I actually have them open. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and just kind of click through them and see if you all had any questions from them. So, a second here. All right, so the first one was for Git commands. Okay, well, here, Git basics. Did anyone have any questions or comments, things that popped into their head as they were looking at the module, or maybe even during the pairing session, something that you thought, well, this is something I'm not sure quite how to handle. Maybe it wasn't in the module or something like that.
I just have a,
Okay, go ahead.
sorry, I just have a minor question with when you're creating a branch. I've seen like two ways of like Git checkout -b, and then like if it's an update or a feature, and I've seen like a slash or a dash. Like, I don't know, I guess that's just like a styling convention, but like we just do the dashes, right? Not a slash. Like after,
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
like after if it's a feature or an update. Do you know what, I don't know if I'm making any sense. You know what I mean?
So when you're making the branch and you're naming the branch is what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
I don't know, maybe Belinda and Tim have seen that formatting. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I would just say that's just, formatting specific for whatever team you're working on. It's kind of just an aesthetic
Okay.
choice. So it's, like the way that we create our branches with the initials and stuff like it, right? That's just like our naming convention. And so that'll change depending on where you're at.
Okay.
But yeah, Git checkout -b is the way.
Okay.
And I feel like Git, if you look at their documentation, they have so many different ways that you can achieve the same task. It just kind of goes on and on and on.
Yeah. The like actual Git documentation I find pretty hard to get through.
Yes.
I think there's Atlassian, I think I think that's the Git documentation that I prefer the most. I think that's what it is. I think there's a link in the slides, but yeah, the actual Git documentation is like basically unreadable as far as I'm concerned. So
yeah, it's definitely difficult. I'll have to look through for that little link there, maybe at the end here.
yeah, the
Yes, right
Atlassian
here.
Git tutorials. I think there's good stuff in there.
Yeah. We had another question or comment. I heard it, but I didn't see exactly who was saying it.
Oh yeah, I just want to add that this slide is really helpful and I believe useful. It was pretty cool to read all of this. It was pretty interesting to read about conflicts. I didn't have a chance, actually. I never seen like merge conflicts, so it's, I guess, pretty interesting topic. And I also want to say that it was pretty cool when Christina shared previous time with us that we can switch to different branch, in this case, for example, from our current branch to main branch to take screenshots. It was just amazing. So yeah, I would also recommend to put this because maybe here, because I think it's a really great tip that a lot of people can benefit from.
Good. I'm glad that you found it beneficial. I just found that I'd always forget to take those before screenshots. So that happens. Good to know that was beneficial. Okay, so that sounds like everyone was pretty much good on the Git. Of course, if you have any questions or anything about that, feel free to let us know. The second one that we worked on, or that you probably took a look at, was pairing. I'm not sure if you all have had experiences pairing before or if this was your first time, but I'm curious to see if you have any questions regarding the pairing module and even just regarding your first pairing session. Sometimes it can be a little bit awkward that first time, and it's different with every person that you pair with. I don't know, maybe Tim and Belinda have the same experience. I feel like it's always a new experience. So yeah, do you have any questions about the module or things that maybe, you wondered about while you were doing your first session? Awesome. I will take the silence as a good sign. All right, and you all had a chance to do your first code review. Hopefully you also were able to glance at this. Did you have any questions about that process?
I like that we put steps to do when we have to do code review. It's really useful because you can just go to the issue and you just do step by step, and you can test it. So I guess it's pretty cool that we have this part, which explains what step we have to do each time.
Yeah, and Tim brought up a good point. Some teams are a bit less explicit when it comes to those steps, but sometimes the style in which you program and programming languages and everything, like some people use Yarn and some people use NPM. So it's nice to be able to give that, basic guideline so that everyone's on the same page, not making any of those assumptions. So be as specific as you can in those PRs when you're writing them, and then hopefully during the code review, they'll definitely come through as something that was super helpful there. All right, and then we also had communication for devs. I found this one really interesting because it kind of talks about, that need for kind of like documenting some of your work, and also, the way that you communicate and make comments in each other's work, and sometimes in your own work. It's more about, like, I think it was talking about the whys versus, I'm gonna look it up here. The why, like, for helping yourself remember, because when you're working on a piece of code, it's fresh in your mind. But if you walk away from it and you come back, sometimes you've just lost your train of thought and you're thinking like, oh, what was it that was happening here? Maybe you come back to something years down the road or months down the road or even weeks. And it's something that can help you. And it can help your teammates, revisit it whenever you're making some big decisions. So I thought that was really helpful. And then writing for someone who knows the least. I think that's a good practice for communicating, because, a lot of times it's really easy for us to start getting into the lingo and talking with each other in a way that other developers understand us. But there's going to be situations where you have to communicate with users. And so it's important to be able to practice that skill of, being able to communicate what it is that's going on in simple terms. I'm not sure if anyone has a comment, question about this module. All right, well, awesome. And the last big one was Agile. This is a new module that they just introduced. And I think it's really neat because the Collab Lab experience is kind of like an Agile-like environment. It's not fully Agile, but it is an Agile-like environment. The code reviews that you do, working on issues and 2-week sprints, the way that the stories are written, the demos that you're doing, all of these things are part of working in an Agile-like environment. So it's really neat to kind of keep those in the back of your mind, because it's helpful to use them in interviews. Did anyone have any questions with regards to this module? Or just the whole process and how the Collab Lab maybe fits into that?
I guess it's pretty cool that we have the chance to read about this and also work with that, because I've seen a lot of job descriptions that says, oh, you have to know how to work in the Agile methodology, and it's super cool that we have this and have a chance to practice. So thanks for that.
And it's neat, there's one thing that I think a lot of times, so in Agile, a lot of times they end up kind of like the stories are written as a need comes up, based on kind of like the user demand. And so that's slightly different than our take on the first set of weeks, because we already have those predetermined stories. But at the end of the program, you have this opportunity where you actually write your own stories based on like decisions that you make as a team. So you even get to practice that a little bit later on. I don't know, Tim and Belinda, if you have anything that you want to add to that, or.
No, I feel like that was great.
Awesome. Well, I think that was it for all of our modules this week. I will mention that in this week's issues, you will be using your, like, one of your tickets. I believe one of the issues deals with accessibility. So you have a module on accessibility. If you happen to be working on that issue, definitely take a look at that accessibility module prior to doing your pairing session, because it'll help you out, especially if you've never had to write accessible code. So I'll leave it to Tim, or is it Belinda that's doing the issues today?
It's me.
I'm sorry, Tim.
Yes. All good. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, it's all these learning modules will be super nice to have as you go forward too, because there will be conflicts at some point, and like Git conflicts, and it'll be nice to be able to look back and kind of study up. But yeah, we should probably do a hands-on Git conflict thing, I think, at some point when that arises, because it's like a really interesting process. Okay. Issues. Let me share my screen. All right, so we are on week 2, issues 4 and 5. Let me just open these up. So yeah, issue 4, move Zoom around a little bit as usual. Issue 4 is going to be Arena and Rachel. Sign you real quick.
A little side note, I noticed in our demo, we forgot to check mark our little boxes for the acceptance criteria once we were done in those PRs. So make sure that you have a little check marks there if you have it. I just caught it today, so.
Totally. All right, yeah, so issue 4. As a user, I want to set up a new shopping list so I can start tracking purchased items. Summary. A shopping list is a set of items associated with the owner's unique ID and the name of the shopping list. Users need to be able to create new shopping lists. To do this, the home view should present to them with a form that allows them to enter the name of their list. Additionally, we need to do a few things to create that list. Save the token to local storage. Save the list to our database using the create list function located in firebase.js, and show the user the list view. The acceptance criteria for this issue, UI related tasks. The home view displays a form that allows users to enter the name of a shopping list and then create a list with that name. The input that accepts the name of the item has a semantic label element associated with it. The user can submit this form with both the mouse and the enter key. When the user submits the form, they see a message indicating that the list was or was not created and saved to the database. The data related tasks are clicking the button uses the create list function in source API firebase.js to create a new shopping list for the user. The shopping list path is stored in local storage using the set list path function. Once the list has been created and saved, the user is redirected to the list view. And a couple of notes that we have here. The create list function takes 3 arguments: the current user's ID, the current user's email, and the name of the shopping list. The set list path function takes 1 argument, the new list token. If you get stuck trying to redirect the user, check out the use navigate hook in React Router DOM. Some misspellings there, but yeah, you get the idea. Yeah, any questions about this? So you'll be creating a form and handling some data. So this is actually a pretty interesting one. Rachel and Arena, feeling good?
Looks good to me. Yeah, pretty interesting to save data into local storage, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so you'll be using a lot of kind of predefined functions here, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting to get it wired up. Sweet.
Thanks, Tim.
Totally. Let's move on to issue 5. That'll be Paige and Jose. Cool. Issue 5. As a user, I want to add a new item to my shopping list so I can start recording purchases. Users need to be able to add items to their shopping list. To do this, the Add Item view should present them with a form that allows them to enter 2 things: the name of the item and an estimate of when they think they'll need to buy the item again. And there's, this is real quick. Okay, so this is actually a helpful README in here inside the API directory, which I actually wasn't familiar with this. This is, yeah, so this will be helpful for both groups, really. Providing basically a documentation of all the functions that already exist inside that file. So this is, yeah, this will be really helpful to look at. Cool. Oops. Excuse me. The acceptance criteria for this issue. UI related tasks. The manage list view displays a form that allows them to enter the name of the item and select how soon they anticipate needing to buy it again. There should be 3 choices for this: soon, corresponding to 7 days; kind of soon, corresponding to 14 days; not soon, corresponding to 30 days. The input that accepts the name of the item has a semantic label element associated with it. The user can submit this form with both the mouse and the enter key. When the user submits the form, they see a message indicating that the item was or was not saved to the database. Data-related tasks. The console log in the add item function in source API firebase.js is replaced with a function that adds the new document to the Firestore database. That function will be imported from the Firebase Firestore module. The user's soon, not soon, kind of soon choice is used to calculate next purchase date. And some notes here. When this feature is implemented correctly, new items will automatically show up in the list view because stream list item gets new data from Firestore every time there's a change. You will know your label is correctly implemented if you click on the label and keyboard focus moves to the related input. And then, yeah, there's a link to the MDN docs, which are just great docs in general. Highly recommend using those, like having those open all the time when you're coding JavaScript and HTML and CSS. Users will be able to submit the form with the enter key if you listen for the right JavaScript event on the right element. If you're adding an on key down listener anywhere, you might be overcomplicating things. The add item form has the potential to be a lot of scope. Stick to the acceptance criteria. So yeah, so both of the issues this week actually are going to involve accessibility. So yeah, definitely check out that accessibility learning module before you guys dive in, because there's definitely some interesting form stuff and input related stuff here. But yeah, Paige and Jose, any questions about this? Feeling good?
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the acceptance criteria under the data related tasks, the first item, are we
Yes.
editing the firebase.js file?
Correct.
Yes. Oh, scary, fun. Okay.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, you're going to be importing stuff from the Firestore library with that one too. So that'll be cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Click on the MDM doc really quickly. There was something I remember from this to look out for, and it had to do with the label, and I'm wondering if it's been updated since.
Do you want me to look at the MDM docs? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, click on it and share it for just a second, because there
totally.
was something that threw me off with that when I was going through the program. And it was kind of the HTML4, where this says to just use the 4 value. So that's something to kind of look out for. I don't know if you saw that in your previous cohort, Tim, but it's just use 4.
Yeah, so this is HTML, and so you're coding in JSX, right? That's what React uses, so it's not actually HTML. So so 4 is a
Is it a 2?
excuse me?
Do you have to change it to a 2?
No, it's
JSX?
HTML4.
No, it's just that 4 is a reserved word in JavaScript.
Mhm.
And since JSX is fundamentally JavaScript, you can't just use 4. So yeah, JSX, you're supposed to use HTML4
Mhm.
if you're going to use the 4. Kind of like how class, in JSX is class name, because class is, again, a reserved JavaScript word. Yeah, but then another note is that if you wrap your label around your input, which this isn't always the right thing to do, which is to say, here we have a label and then an input. But if you have your open brackets in input and then your closing brackets of the label, you actually don't need to use the 4 at all, because it basically like ties it all together. And so sometime, like, styling wise, that doesn't work, but I try, like, if I can do that, that's my personal preference. I just find it simpler, and it's like less typing even. So yeah.
You'll test it and play around with it, but just be on the lookout for that being slightly different.
Yeah, hopefully your editors would yell at you for doing stuff like that. And if they don't, it's
The
worth
Dom
like trying to,
definitely yelled at me.
yeah, something will yell at you, right? Totally. All right. Let me add these to the in progress over here, and I think that's pretty much all I have to say, unless people have more questions. Nothing. All right. Cool. Well, I think we're at an hour, I guess, or no, half hour. I don't know how
Yeah,
time
we
works.
went
I'm
through it
confused.
so fast.
Yeah, I just see even numbers, 11 o'clock. But cool. Yeah, any final thoughts? We got a little bit of time if anyone wants to talk about anything, but otherwise, I can give you back some of your Saturday here.
I have a small question about mouse move. So when we saying that user have to have a chance to submit by enter or by click in this case, right? Mouse move,
Yeah.
it's a click.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so some of that, sorry, I'm just going to go back to like look at the issue one more time. So yeah, the user can submit this form by both mouse and enter key. Again, like if you're putting on mouse click events on things, you're kind of going in the wrong direction. And I think the accessibility learning module will hopefully shed light on this. I haven't actually looked at it. But that being said, yeah, if you find yourself like where you're just like throwing JavaScript event handlers on things, trying to like wire up the acceptance criteria, yeah, you might want to look in a different direction. And if you're getting caught in that, like, feel free to ping us and we can like talk about it more. But I think, yeah, you'll be able to figure it out on your own, I bet. But if you do have questions, like, we're totally here.
Thanks.
And I have to say, I totally overthought it, and it's really simple. It's something that I think it's natural to overthink. When I was doing it, I totally overthought it. All right, so for this week, we have the open office hours will be with me. So I'll go ahead and send you all some availability. We'll try to go for, Tuesday or Wednesday, likely Wednesday. We'll do kind of something like what Tim did. And then you guys can let me know what your availability is. And then Tim will be doing the mentor reviews. So remember, you're going to be assigning your other teammates the reviews. And then once those are complete, let the mentor know, in this case it would be Tim, that it is ready for his review. So I'm sorry we did not clarify that last week, but every week we'll have a different person doing open office hours and a different person doing code reviews. Any questions on that?
Yes. Just to clarify, so we do our pull request and we assign the 2 people not on our pair to do the to do the Collab reviews. And then once they approve it, this week we're assigning Tim as our mentor reviewer. Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
Yeah, and that's part of Agile too, is the fact that you have stakeholders and everyone that signs off of it. You kind of have like the project owner, the scrum master, and then you have those, teammates. Everybody has to sign off on it. If I'm, not mistaken how I interpret it. Anything else?
I wanted to share a funny Agile note. I was telling Tim and Christina, the person referenced at the end of the Agile document is actually my partner. And so if anyone has any Agile questions, feel free to send them my way. I have an inside resource. I asked him what the most important thing to share with folks about Agile was, which I think broke him, because he was like, no, all of it is important. But he said it was the the short iterations so that you get the quick feedback loops, which I think resonates with me and shows in how we're doing these really small iterations of stories and reviewing them and then doing the next bit. So just wanted to share that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is very cool. Cool. All right. Well, have a good week, everyone. Happy pair programming, and we'll be in touch on Slack, and yeah. All right. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Bye. Have a great week.
Bye.